Anyway, let's jump back into it. We got on the line Sincere Ray, senior from St. Augustine Prep. Good morning, buddy.
Good morning. How are you doing?
Pretty good, man. Thanks for taking a few minutes. I know you got a little bit banged up last night with a rib injury.
Yeah.
How you feeling, man?
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. It's just a little bumps and bruises, but I'll be fine.
Well, you definitely a lot of guys take some bumps and bruises against St. Joe. What did you think of that team? Obviously, the number one team in South Jersey, and some big boys on that squad.
Yeah, they definitely are really big up front. They definitely have a lot of talent, especially coming out with Jada Byers. I mean, me personally, I'm pretty close with Jada, and I mean, he's electric. Like anytime it's on the field, that game we were keying on it the whole game, and I mean, at first I felt like our defense was like holding him up a little bit, and then he started to get a little comfortable, so we had to just like keep putting heads on him. But I mean, Jada, he's an amazing player. Jada's an amazing player.
Yeah, I mean, you guys did a pretty nice job in the first half. It was only 14-0 going into halftime there. And how are your linebacker buddies feeling? Joe, Shane, and Joey. I mean, those guys, they had to make a lot of tackles last night because obviously that defensive line. I mean, when you're going up against an offensive line featuring a couple 300-pounders, they're going to be pretty occupied, and your linebackers and defensive backs have to come up making a lot of tackles.
Yeah, we definitely have to come downhill really fast because, I mean, the way they just pull their guards and pull their tackles, it's just like when you see Wisdom or Sean Morris coming down, you really have to like dip and dive through them because they're so big, you know. And I think that's exactly where Jada fits right in because he's 5'7", and he just like sits right behind those big offensive linemen, and then boom, he's right there. So like you have to react to him like really fast, you know.
What's going through your mind since you're as a defensive back when you see Wisdom Quarshie, coming your way?
Right. As soon as I see him coming, I just try to like evade him a little bit, see where Jada is or see where Nate Johnson is or something, and then just shoot right to him, but just like evade them as much as possible.
You're trying to think, left, X, down. Is that the spin move to get away from this guy?
Something like that.
That dude is just massive, man, and with a mean streak. I mean, that's got to be tough as a D-back when you see a dude like that coming around pulling on some kind of counter or trap.
Yeah, for sure.
So what's the mood of the team today after a game like that? Obviously, it was close until halftime, then they sort of pulled away in that third quarter. But obviously, the best team in South Jersey at this point. Where do you guys go from here? What do you learn from a game like that?
I mean, we're definitely going to persevere. I mean, even going into halftime, we all had a heads up. We all had a positive mindset, and we were ready to roll. I mean, it was hard. Our long snapper went down in the first play, and I mean, our long snapper, he's like a 5-star. He's like top 10 in the country right now, and it was tough for him to go down. And then after he went down, we were playing for him. And then when I went down, I was heartbroken, you know. But definitely that definitely motivated our team. But I mean, this game's in the past right now, and we have our eyes focused on Shoney.
What's the feeling like on Saturday morning when you wake up with bruised ribs?
It definitely wasn't easy sleeping last night.
Oh, I can imagine. I mean, I've never had bruised ribs, but I can imagine that's got to be, when you finally do get to sleep, then you wake up and you're like, oh, trying to get out of bed's got to be a chore, right?
Yeah, it definitely is. It definitely is.
So after this football season, man, just stick to track.
Yeah, that's the plan.
There you go. So tell us about your commitment earlier this week to Penn State and how that all came about.
Yes, sir. So Penn State actually came along relatively late. Actually, I mean, they had the in-home visit a few weeks ago. I actually visited Penn State a couple years ago when I went to a football camp with some of my old friends, and when I went there, I just loved it there. You know, it was a huge campus, and not only was it big, it was beautiful, and everyone there was just so welcoming, and it was just an amazing environment to be. So, Coach Aaron Tucker had come along, and there was a lot of interest there. We had a lot of communication going, a pretty good relationship, and he had offered me. And we like reconstructed the offer a little bit, and he got me a full ride. So as soon as he said that, that night, I was like, all right, Mom, Dad, this is what I want to do.
Sincere, talk about your decision to actually do track in college. I know you got the full scholarship for it for Penn State, and it looks like you made the right decision considering how good you are at it. But did football ever cross your mind as far as playing in college, or did you always think about, I want to do track once I get to the next level?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I've been playing football since I was 6 years old, and my dreams and my passions were to just play football all my life. But I mean, 4 years ago, I definitely didn't think I was going to be this track star at Augustine Prep. So it was hard. It was really hard to choose one sport over the other. I had offers for both sports, and to me, it sort of came down to my future. And I had to look at it as either I was going to go play Division I football or Division I track. And me personally, I felt that I can go farther in track than football.
We're talking with Sincere Ray, senior at St. Augustine Prep, and one of the best hurdlers in the state. And Sincere, how did you get into hurdling? That's not really something I would choose as a track guy. I would maybe stick to the 400 or something like that. And hurdling's tough, man. It takes such a long time to get good at it.
Yeah, it definitely does. I mean, I first came across hurdling when I was probably like the 8th or 7th grade. I was just watching the Olympics, and it just like really caught my eye. And I was like, that looks really cool. And then freshman year, when Coach Forrest had brought me out in the winter, I was like, I want to do hurdling. I was like, I want to hurdle. and the hurdles definitely it's a mind game, because I mean, that's like a 3 or 4. That's like a 3-foot obstacle right in front of you, and you have to jump 10 of them running full speed. So I mean, once or twice it does cross my mind. I'm like, okay, am I about to fall over this hurdle? But I mean, you just got to run as fast as you can and just not think about it.
It's funny, I was talking to the Absegami girls track coach, I think it was 2 years ago, when they had those great sprinters and the real good relay teams, and he was like, yeah. I've been trying to get these girls to run the hurdles, and they're like, no thanks, coach. we're going to stick to the 200 and the 400. What does it take to be a great hurdler, and how much have you learned about that particular event during your high school career? Because I'm assuming it's one of those races where you kind of learn a little something every time you go out there and run it.
Oh yeah, every single time. Every single time you learn different techniques, different ways to make your muscles twitch faster as you're going over the hurdle. I mean, week in and week out, it just takes, like, you really have to practice jumping hurdles like every week, because I mean, you might not notice, but your coaches will notice, and your teammates will notice. They're like, well, you're getting a lot better at this. You're getting a lot faster. So it definitely does take a lot of practice. Hurdles especially.
How many hurdles did you trip over your first time you ran it?
Countless.
Did you ever just wipe out on like the second hurdle and be like, oh man, what am I doing here?
I actually did. That's a funny story. I actually fell over a hurdle my freshman year. My freshman year during the 400 hurdles. Yeah, it was pretty bad. I was on the last hurdle too.
Oh.
And I was running. I looked at the clock, and I was looking at the time clock, seeing the seconds. I was like, okay, I gotta go. And then I looked down, and the hurdle was right in front of me. And I was completely wiped out. And then from that point on, I said I will never look at the clock again when I'm running.
What did your coach say about that? He's like, hey, by the way, try to look at the hurdles each time you run over one.
Yeah, he laughed. He laughed at me.
Good stuff, Sincere. We're up against a break. Got to let you go, but we appreciate you taking a few minutes and rest up. I know you got a big game next week, and appreciate you coming on and talking a little bit about your football career and track, and good luck the rest of the way. And also Penn State, congratulations on that. That's a great scholarship offer.
Thank you, sir.